And I'm feeling alive. You give me all the strength that I need, and I wanna know if I can be by your side. I don't wanna be anywhere but by your side. I just wanna.
How's it going, everybody? It's Duran here from Sunrise Gaming, going back at you with another video today. This video will be a part of our podcast series we do on Fridays. It's called Overwatch Overtime. It's the end of the week. It's the end of our matches. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today during this podcast. Just to let you know how this podcast works, there's no gameplay or anything in the background. This is really something for you to actually just sit and listen to. But we do suggest if you have chores or something to do, you should probably go do those. Just do those. Put us in the background, and let us entertain you while you're doing what you need to do. Your room is probably disgusting. You should probably work on that. All right. Today I am joined by Lax. Lax, how are you today?
Doing pretty good, Now you reminded me because my room is absolutely disgusting. I need to clean it, but
Yeah.
I'll do that later.
Yeah, because you have to do this.
Yeah.
All right, so this week's podcast, a lot of stuff has happened this past week. Kind of a big stuff going on in the competitive scene. We've got a lot of new updates from Jeff and the boys. That's what I'm referring to Blizzard now, Jeff and the boys.
Jeff and the boys. I like it.
We've got, season 5 just went underway. So let's, I'm sure you have a huge list of things to talk about. So I'll let you take the lead and we'll get started.
Yeah, well, one of the first things that I want to talk about is all the different updates that we've seen from the different characters that have gotten buffs / nerfs. So McCree, Reaper, and Roadhogs have all gotten changes, and some people consider the Roadhog to be kind of a nerf, kind of a buff, and then the McCree and the Reaper are just people think straight buffs. But let's go into that. Let's talk about McCree first. The thing about McCree is I would always call him a really skill hero. You need really good tracking, and you need really good flicks in a way, like tracking and flicks. Like he's not a sniper, but the way he plays, you're only firing one shot at a time. So being able to flick is always good as well, and positioning as well, because he's not very mobile. He has a role, yes, but it's not really the most. It's more used to just reload really quickly and close the gap rather than to retreat. So McCree's update was to his ultimate. Now, a lot of people weren't sure that his ultimate was going to be the thing that changed. I think part of the reason they did this is using McCree's ultimate is so risky. It's kind of like Pharah's, because she's immobile, she can't do anything, you can't cancel out. You can cancel out of McCree's, but then you just wasted the ult. So you can die really quickly. Same thing with McCree. Now you have to kill him quickly, or else he's just gonna one-shot everybody. That's what he does. However, it's also not hard to hide from him. So it makes sense that they went this route, and I do think it is a buff. They decreased the time it takes to lock onto targets from 0.8 seconds to 0.2 seconds, which I think is crazy. He's gonna really be all that tells me is that he's gonna have to get high ground, and he's gonna have to be away from the fight, and which can be an issue depending on the comp that the enemy team is running. However, if he can lock on and get just 2 kills onto like a DPS and a healer, like that's pretty good. What do you think? I think it's overall a buff. I mean, obviously there's nothing really negative about it.
Yeah, this is just a straight buff because McCree used to be kind of the go-to. Taimu in the pro scene made McCree very famous with the tracking and the skill shooting and all that. The cowboy was quite the anti-flanker. I think that with this buff that McCree is going to be in a good spot. I don't see him like ever replacing Soldier as like your primary solid DPS.
Yeah.
But I do see him in like more niche picks. And when the buff goes through, when it finally hits live, when he ults, like if you don't run and hide immediately, you're dead. And
yeah,
I think that changes his ult from a zoning ult to a killing ult.
Yeah.
What people do now is with McCree, Because if, say, you're trying to take the point, he will go up in high noon, and basically that forces the enemy team to scatter, and that allows your team to get in and make the necessary picks you need to make. So, all in all, it's a good buff for McCree. We'll see him a lot more in competitive.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, Soldier's kind of more of the reliable pick,
Mm-hmm.
and the the McCree pick is interesting because you really have to be skilled. You really have to know what you're doing, because you can really go off with McCree, as we've seen players like Taimo do. The problem is people just don't have that skill usually, especially in the lower ranks. I mean, once you get up to Diamond and maybe Masters and Grandmasters, you start to see like really good McCree play. So
Yep.
I think you're right on the money when saying that he's going to go from a zoning ult to a an actual like insta kill, and especially if it's one of those scenarios in which usually you're going to find the McCree behind like a Rhine shield or behind a Winston or something. Like he's not going to be out in the open a lot. So usually it's like, oh, where's the McCree? He's not behind the. Oh shoot, he's ulting us from the high ground. So
Yep.
it's going to be one of the things where if the enemy team does bring a McCree, you're definitely going to have to watch out for him. Um, Overall, I think you'll see him played more. It's just one of those things where, like, it's like Genji, man. You can't play Genji if you don't know what you're doing. If you can't position yourself right and you can't track and you can't flick, then maybe you shouldn't play McCree. Um, I don't know, but I think it's good. I think it's along the lines of what he needed. Whether or not I don't think he's gonna start replacing a bunch of people. I don't think he'll ever replace Soldier, especially on defense. Maybe you'll see McCree more offensively. I don't know. But yeah, so that's McCree. Now, let's go on to Roadhog next. Roadhog got a bunch of changes. So the first one is which I think is a pretty big deal. His head hitbox has been reduced by some percentage. I think that's pretty big because, I mean, we saw the same thing with Winston. He just had a huge head hitbox and he could get melted pretty quickly. Now that Roadhog has a smaller hitbox, this is going to allow him, I think, to maybe take on like the Hanzos that might be farther away, and like maybe like it adds to his sustainability, I think. So I think that's really good. He also, in terms of a buff, has one more ammo slot for his gun, which I think is really good. It really kind of sucked playing with only 4 shots because you felt like you were just reloading the whole time.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're running against a Reinhardt, like you have to melt that shield down pretty quickly. That's what Roadhog's good at. So, especially with his right click, you're only really using the left click if somebody's close or you hook somebody. So he's going to be using his right click more because he has more opportunities to, and then he'll use that to set up his hook. Now the only thing is that they did reduce his damage down to, like, they reduced it a lot. Like, what was it, 30% or something?
Yeah, it was 30% flat drop.
Yeah. Now he can still. I think he'll still do what, 250, I think, as well, if you get the right hook and you put it straight into somebody. Like it's gonna take more skill.
It'll still
obviously.
kill most DPS.
Yeah, you're gonna get those insta kills. It's just gonna be harder, and I think since we've moved from the meta in which we completely relied on Roadhog hitting these insane hooks through the space-time continuum, now it's more like, okay, he's actually going to take a lot of skill to play. And it's kind of like a risk versus reward, because you take a Roadhog, he can't block, he can't really help your team out. Like, he's there to get that insta-kill. And when you take him, you know if the enemy team has a Tracer, she's just going to be farming her ult off you. So you really kind of rely on that Roadhog being very skilled. So I think it's an overall buff, because I think you're going to see him brawl a little bit more and be able to sustain the fight with those extra thing.
So his fire rate was increased, though.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's the only buff out of this. He's not going to be so much an insta-kill character anymore. But with his fire rate being increased, I feel that he's going to be in a more brawly state. But,
yeah.
But the pros, Harblue, a couple other guys are saying this is an overall nerf. But it's just it's just because Roadhog is no longer going to be a position killer.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're out of position, he's going to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right on the money there. the main thing is now with the increase. I forgot about the fire rate. Well, with the fire rate, he's going to be able to help out with tanks a little bit more, which I think is why you're going to see him brawl a little bit more, especially in the middle.
Yep.
So I definitely think he's going to see a little bit difference in a play style. He might not be able to flank and get the pick on the Ana right away. That might not be the best scenario for him, but I do think he's still going to be played. And like we've always said, Roadhog's an extremely much like McCree, is a skill character. You got to be able to hit those hooks. So, yeah, I think that'll do it for Roadhog. The next character that got an update was Reaper. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, "This is broken. This is absolutely insane." And then I thought about it. I listened to some other guys talk about it, and while this is gonna sound weird, but I don't think it's a nerf slash buff. I think it's just kind of a change in his play style.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? What he's gotten completely rid of his passive ability where he picks up the orbs after he kills somebody, and now he just gains, what is it, 20% of all
Whatever
the damage he
does.
Yeah, he gains back to him, which makes sense for his character. I mean, in terms of like character-wise, it makes sense because he's like a Reaper, you know.
He's
so that
a
makes
Reaper.
sense. Yeah, it's cool. I like that. But I think it's gonna change his playstyle because Reaper's goal originally was to drop down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was a pounce.
Yeah, drop down, pick off like an Ana or Lucio or maybe their DPS, grab the orb so that he doesn't die right away because everybody's gonna focus him, hit Wraith form and get the hell out of there. You know.
Right,
And
and
then
being the
keep-
hard
keep
counter
doing
to
it.
Winston as well.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah. Winston dives in, and then Roadhog's Reaper's waiting for him. So now it's more like he can still do that, but he's gonna have to be more careful, and you might see him, because it used to be he was considered the tank buster, right? But that wasn't, you could tank bust with him, but you couldn't. That wasn't the best use of Reaper. Now it seems like they want him to go back to that original like tank busting role,
Yep.
where now he can get more health back from shooting the Orisa or the Diva or the Winston, those big meaty targets, and that way if somebody focuses him and the Reinhardt starts swinging, he can stay in there and fight for a little bit and then Wraith form, get out, and then pounce on somebody. So I think it's really just a change in his play style. I originally thought it was just going to be like absolutely insane, like you'd have to pick Reaper all the time, but after thinking about it, it makes more sense because the orbs used to just burst heal him so that he could essentially just get out for free. He'd grab the orb, Wraith, and then get out.
Yeah.
Now it's more like, now that Wraith form reloads his
Shotguns.
now that they reload automatically, which is really good, you're gonna see him in the middle of the fight a little bit more, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, so now Reaper can sustain himself through a fight.
Yeah.
Healers won't have to focus on him as much because he's going to be doing damage. And I think that this is going to play a huge factor into his ultimate. If he can get a good ult, there's no stopping him if you don't stun him.
Yeah.
Because it counts for his ultimate as well, and as soon as he's got it and he's using it, 20% of all damage he's dealing is healing him. He's basically going to be unstoppable unless either you animate him or CC him and put him to sleep, or something like that. There's no way you're going to stop him. I think they'll probably look back and maybe change him a little bit more, but I do think this is part of Blizzard's big push to make sure the triple tank meta never returns.
Which we're all for. I get tired of seeing it. I get tired of playing it.
Yeah, Blizzard does not like the triple tank meta. They nerfed Ana to stop it, and now they're starting to buff other characters to make sure 3 tanks do not face off against 3 tanks. So, all in all, this is a big buff for Reaper.
Oh yeah. So that's it for the character updates. Now, just one more little update that they added. Instead of they've now differentiated the damage dealt from hero damage and barrier damage, which I think
PTR,
is
right?
Yeah, it's on the PTR. I think it's really good. Reason being, we've always said that medals don't really mean anything. Eliminations kind of do, but that's really the only one and that's only really for DPS.
Yeah.
But this is important because you can kind of see who's shooting barriers and who's actually trying to take out somebody. Now it's not perfect, because theoretically a soldier could shoot somebody for forever, and then they go and heal themselves, and then he's not actually getting any any effect towards the game, towards the match. So it's not perfect, but it's definitely better than just the soldier that's just shooting Rhine shields for the whole game and says he has gold damage and he shouldn't switch because of that. Like, that's definitely going to help. What do you think?
No, I think this is a good move. I also think there's going to be a problem with this. Winning the barrier battle is important in this game.
Yeah. Especially when you have two Reinhardts.
When it's a Reinhardt, I mean, God, every character. We got Orisa with a barrier, Reinhardt with the barrier, Zarya bubbles, so on and so forth. It's barrier wars out there. Hitting barriers is good, but it's not the end. Like, it's what you just need to be constantly doing. I think when these stats start showing up in games, I think the downside is people are going to be a little toxic toward each other at first.
Probably.
Spending too much time on the barriers. But I think ultimately, as time progresses and as they tweak it more and more, it'll change and people will be like, okay, he did a lot of damage to the barriers. So he really took down those barriers for us, and that made it a lot easier. So,
like when you're going up against when you're going up as a triple tank, if you have a Reinhardt and they have a Reinhardt, the barrier damage is gonna make sense for certain characters. If your Genji's leading in barrier damage, then you probably weren't winning the barrier fight. But if your Roadhog is, then he was doing his job. But like I said, I'm worried. The other downside is that somebody's going to have, I mean, this is just the case with metals in general, but somebody's going to have gold hero damage and say, oh, I'm carrying, when in reality, they might have just been, going off. That's very possible. But it could also be the case that they were shooting things that ran away, got healed, and then came back to the fight, and not actually contributing towards the team fight.
exactly.
So, like we've always said here, the medals don't really mean anything. You can make a case for eliminations, and that's probably about it. And even that's kind of iffy. But this is a step in the right direction, I think. And so I think Blizzard's going the right direction.
Agreed.
All right. So, big news. The new map that came out. The Horizon Lunar map. I spent some time with it just walking around. I think it's really cool. I didn't play it. Spartan played it. And
We'll have some footage on it next week, but we should just touch it base today.
Yeah. So I think it's really cool, especially all the little Easter eggs. I like how you can zoom in on the telescope. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. That was really cool.
That's pretty cool. And each different character has a different reaction when they go up to it. I think that's really cool. And then I like the little button that you can stand on, and it opens the little screen, and you get to see all of Earth. I think that's really cool. Just a quick speculation. Obviously things will change, but the map felt really, really big, and it's a 2CP map, and it felt really big, and it felt like there's a lot of different corridors, like little hallways you can go down. I don't know. Have you had time to look at it?
I've looked at it. So what I think is going to end up happening is that people aren't going to necessarily fight in the big open areas. People are going to be trying to flank each other a lot. We're going to see a lot of more or less, smaller engagements.
Right.
Or big team fights, but in a very tight and narrow corridor. So
Right.
I don't think so much there's gonna be big brawls out in the open, because if you're out in the open, I mean, this map is definitely a Widowmaker's paradise.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, you've
It
seen
does
it.
have a good amount of high ground for you.
Exactly, and she can get up there easily. So I think
Yeah.
that a good Widowmaker is going to love this map. So fighting out in the open may not be the best bet for people, especially with the way
Okay.
the meta is changing. So
Right. That makes sense.
it's an interesting map. I look forward to it, and I look forward to it. Probably should be going live on Tuesday, I imagine.
I think so. Yeah.
So, and it will be in competitive rotation.
Oh sweet. Okay. What about just real quick? What about the zero gravity? Did you check any of that out?
I know it's just in small parts of the map, and I think that's fine as long as
It's
the whole
only
map.
if you step outside.
Yeah, and that's cute and all, to do some little silly things. I don't see the pros utilizing it at all.
Oh no, I don't think so.
As long as the pros don't utilize it, it's okay.
I think it's just funny. I think it's a cool little. Oh yeah, guys, remember we're on the moon. It's just a fun little thing, and I think, and then from that they added like in your whatchamacallit, and like custom games you can actually change the gravity, which I think is really cool. It's just gonna make the game a little bit more fun.
Yeah, for custom games that'll be enjoyable.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. So that's the new map. I think it's cool. Now going off of that, just some quick speculation. We've seen all the new documents that have come out, talking about what happened on the colony and all the different things. And then in the map you can see like there's like a little panel that shows different images, and then like at the very end it's like the gorillas like look like they're about to lose their mind and they're like fighting or something. So kind of some speculation. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think happened on the moon?
I'm thinking some Jeff and the boys are probably
I love it when you say that. That's funny.
Jeff and the boys are probably referencing some Planet of the Apes
Oh,
story
yeah.
here. I think that the monkeys probably either overtook the place or something bad really happened. Maybe Winston and a few other apes are the only survivors. We don't really know what happened.
Yeah. So from the Winston lore, from what we've seen, he said something like, well, from what we can assume, it was that Harold Winston, the doctor that raised Winston, basically spent more time with Winston, and that got the other gorillas jealous. And then because of that, there were a couple of troublemakers that started, and like things just kind of went downhill with the project. And so yeah, I think it's more like 'cause they're not there on the map, and you see like things are broken and not all there. So you can assume that there was like they rebelled against. Now we don't know if the scientists just got the hell out of there, or if they actually got killed by the gorillas, or if they're like sectioned off somewhere trying to survive. We don't know, but. I think it's interesting because you look at some of the tapes they talk about. What is it, Hammond or something?
Hammond, yes. We got a lot of speculation with Hammond too.
Yeah, so do you think he's going to be the next character? Do you think he's going to be kind of like they introduced Effie and then Effie built the character? Is he like the lead into the next character? Like, what do you think? Because remember, they said, was it Jeff that said there's like new character news is on the horizon? Haha.
Yes, Jeff is a funny guy with his monologue voice. I think Hammond is either one of two things. He's the next hero, or he's going to introduce the next hero.
Okay.
I could see it being Hammond. So with the way the rotation's going on with how they bring in new characters, I think Hammond will just come in, and then the next hero will probably be more of a mystery. And I do expect Doomfist at BlizzCon.
Oh, okay. And when's BlizzCon?
November.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just like Sombra was released at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Doomfist will be at BlizzCon too.
That would definitely make sense, and that would be like the perfect time for Doomfist, because Terry Crews will come out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that'll be lit. Yeah, it would be weird to see two gorillas. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Hammond's not a gorilla.
Wait, who's Hammond?
Hammond's not a gorilla. Hammond's a chimpanzee.
Oh, okay.
He's a smaller ape.
Like, yeah, like it would be weird to see two monkeys, two non-human animals.
I don't think so.
That's my theories. That's what I'm saying is like I think it's more along the lines of Hammond's going to introduce somebody. Hammond finds something. Maybe it's another robot. I don't know. Maybe it's an alien. I don't know.
Could be.
I think that would be cool. But it could very well be Hammond. I'm just not sure because like Winston makes sense for a gorilla, right? I'm not really sure how a chimpanzee would fight. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe he doesn't fight at all.
Maybe he's more of a support character.
He could be. There's a rumor going around right now he might be a support character.
Yeah, maybe. That'd be nice.
Who knows?
Yeah,
We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm really excited though. I think that'll be cool. So that's the new map and that's some of the new lore stuff. So really quick, well not really quickly, we're probably gonna take some time on this, but I want to talk about the end of, well we already talked about the end of season 4, but we're gonna talk about the start of season 5. Fortunately, finished my placements, ended up in silver. I had some really bad games. I hard carried a couple games, but I don't want to talk about it. It was bad. And then Spartan didn't do so well either. You finished in low gold, right?
Yeah.
For Doran. Papa Bear, your Smurf isn't done yet.
No. It will be done by this weekend.
Right. So probably going to see some grinding from us pretty soon. But I want to talk about what we expect to see in terms of the meta from this season.
Okay.
So really quickly, I think that this meta is going to rely on mobility, because we've seen a lot of characters, because obviously they want to stray away from the triple tank. They want to see characters that are more mobile and able to play versatile roles. From what I've seen, because Lucio got the nerf, I consider it a nerf. So you can't just speed boost absolutely everybody on the map around anymore. You actually have to work as a team, and you have to have people concentrating on this one area. So I think it's going to be all about stamina and like versatility, meaning that it's going to be, can you survive on your own without relying on your healer? Because like we've always said, the guys in the support role aren't just healers, they're support characters. Lucio speed boosts you, he boops people, and is arguably the best support character with all her different, how much utility she has. So what's interesting, I think we're going to see, is we're going to see people kind of work as a team but play individually at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. This is essentially what a dive comp is.
Yeah. You're going to see a lot of split comps and dive comps, I think.
I'd see a lot during my placements was triple DPS as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I think the new meta's gonna bring. One thing that I want to talk about, because I think this is really gonna define it.
Okay.
Define this meta, because we've seen things like a 2-2-2 and a triple DPS and even single healer with Sombra. I think we're going to start seeing this whole idea of individual play around a single point, which is going to revolve around taking Winston as your tank versus taking Reinhardt. Because most people, from what I've seen, at least in the lower ranks, tend to want to rely on a Reinhardt, when in reality, obviously you have to take skill into part of this, but in reality, if you have really good like tracking, you can play a Tracer. If you have really good game awareness and know who to dive, you can play a Genji. I think it's actually better to take a Winston, because when he drops his barrier, he can literally get in between their team, split them off, use the barrier, and say, okay, this is the point in which we're going to fight around. This is the point at which I want my guys to not bail out, but come back to, and then we're going to focus a target. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I see what you mean.
Yeah, so
But
we've talked about... Go ahead.
I just think that at the lower levels, people still think that, right, so you connect to the game, and you're a tank main, and you say, what tank do we want?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to say Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to say Winston. They don't see Winston as they see him as a jumping monkey. They don't see him as like a dive and initiation tank.
Yeah.
People would rather just have, because Reinhardt is built so much like a tank, they just see him as a tank.
Yeah, it makes sense, you know?
So, I don't think this is something that will ever change, unfortunately.
Yeah, at the lower ranks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think at the higher ranks and at the pro scene, you're starting to see, because I've been watching some pro tournament VODs, and they take Winston quite a bit. Now, there are times in which they take a Reinhardt, and we can go over that too, but...
payload maps I've seen, they bring a Reinhardt.
Yeah, just because you gotta really... It depends, especially on, like pretty much every payload maps has a street section, and having a Reinhardt there while you're moving the payload is good, because those, like, really small corridors, like, you know that they're gonna come at you at some point, so you really need a Reinhardt to kind of like section off and be like, okay, this is the side we're gonna take, and I'm gonna let my DPS fight around this side, but I'm also gonna be able to move with the payload. Because if you take a Winston on a payload map without a Reinhardt and he's just your main tank, it's possible, but it's hard, because you can't really. What you're essentially saying is, okay, I'm gonna when you're on offense, I'm gonna pick a spot where the enemy team is, split them, and we have to fight at that spot. Well, what happens if their team goes and stops the cart, the cart, just keeps moving? What happens if they dive and they just like dive behind you? Now your Winston's essentially useless. So there are times in which you want a Reinhardt, but I think we're going to start seeing people, which on the pro scene, as we've already seen, take Winston more, which I think is good because I mean I love Winston. I'm kind of partial, but I really enjoy Winston. But I think it goes along with, I mean, obviously, like you said, Jeff and the boys want to get the hell away from triple tank. So I think this is the direction in which they're going, and I think this is the direction in which the meta's going. I think you're going to see a lot of people start to catch on to that, especially at the higher ranks and then the pro scene. So I think that's where the meta's going to go.
Yeah, more mobility.
Yeah, it's gonna be like I said, individual play versus versatility, or I mean versus stamina. So how well can you survive versus how well can you play individually?
Yeah.
Meaning, how well can that Genji take down the Ana or the Mercy? How well can the Genji take the Soldier? How well can the Tracer help burst down the tanks? How well can your Winston split people off? Like, playing around a central point, but at the same time really kind of winning a lot of 1v1s and maybe 2v1s if you can get it going. So I think that's where it's going. What do you think?
No, I'm in agreement with you. I don't see it at our ranks. You gotta
Yeah, no,
remember
I don't either.
the lower ranks, they're always behind in the times and they play whatever they want, which unfortunately does hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the pro scene, yeah, definitely. It's just going to be dive versus counter dive on 2CP, and then King of the Hill probably as well. And then payload maps, Reinhardt's, and a little more traditional builds will be run.
Right. Do you think we're going to see Reaper more in like a counter dive scenario? Because he's not really a dive character. But do you think he could be a counter dive character?
Sure. You're on defense or you're on King of the Hill and you see that the enemy team's running a dive. Sub out either maybe your Genji for the Reaper. Absolutely, especially when he goes live with his new patch.
Yeah, let's say.
I still think McCree might, in the pro scene, McCree would probably come before Reaper. But
yeah, you think so?
I think so, just because his skill level is so much higher. But we'll see.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. But I mean, I guess with the lower ranks, it's not really the worst thing that people want to pick a Reinhardt. It's just, I still think it depends. I mean, obviously, the lower you get, the worse it is. But especially right around low gold, you start seeing people don't know how to utilize the Reinhardt because he is a big shield. If you're taking a Reinhardt, you should probably take a Roadhog as your off tank, even though he's not really a tank, but as an off tank, and then a Soldier, just because they can kind of sit back and be protected, and they can burst down the enemy shield as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mind seeing the. I mean, it gets annoying playing it time after time, but believe me. But the Reinhardt's in the lower ranks, it might even be better just because Winston's more of a game awareness type character, and like I don't know if people in the lower ranks really understand that, so it might be the fit for them. But you know, we like to watch the pros do their things with Winston, so that's good. Cool. You have anything else to add with where you think we're going in the new meta?
Not really. I do know that some pros have been saying that Tracer might be OP. Might be just too strong because everybody's kind of ignored Tracer because her ultimate isn't that great. Characters that have really good ultimates are the ones that are always seem to keep getting tweaked. Tracer's ultimate is good, but the downside to it is it's easy to charge, it's easy to miss.
You have to be really good at it.
So I mean, we've seen Soon from Rogue miss pulse bombs. I mean, much less these days than when he first started. But I was watching one where he was on King Row and he completely whiffed hitting the Ana or the Reinhardt, and it just fell on the ground and they moved away from it. So I think maybe in the future, in the next couple of months, especially depending on what the next hero is like, we might see a little small nerf to Tracer.
Yeah,
and that might change the meta as well, especially dive comp.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be very interesting to see because she's so good, partially because if you have good tracking, her gun can do a lot of damage, as well as she's really hard to kill. She has small hitboxes. She has 150 health, but she has small hitbox. She blinks around everywhere. You know, a good Tracer is extremely hard to kill. A bad Tracer is easy to kill, but a good Tracer is extremely hard to kill. So when you add in like just the sheer skill that pro players have, I mean, man, you just see. I mean, we've almost every Tracer just goes off at some point in a pro match. It seems. So, I think you could definitely see an interesting change to her. Probably a slight nerf. What that would be, I don't know. Um, yeah, I think I would agree. The thing about her ult, man, is just that it has really, really high potential. Because it can essentially swing a team fight just by killing one person. You can swing a team fight. Especially if
Absolutely.
you have follow up initiation. Um, so the potential's really high, but the actual averages of
Yeah, the
actually hitting it
execution
and
of
getting
it.
it, yeah, that's when it. Now, I mean, like you said, like even the pros miss every now and then, and
Hmm.
so. But I think you're right on. I think you might see a little change to her, which would definitely mess up the meta.
Especially
'Cause
dive
she's
comp.
yeah, because she is almost an insta pick, and she's pretty much needed in dive. And then even in like a split or like a 2-2-2, it's always good to have some kind of flanker, and people tend to rely on her. So, yeah, cool. So that'll do it for the meta discussion. Now, I want to go on to the pro scene just because I like talking about my pros.
I figure you would. You want to? Well, it's first. The Rumble tournament just came to an end.
Hmm.
Um,
That
like
was, oh
like
gosh, who was that? That was Selfless
that
in
was
C9.
selfless. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
That was like the
there.
shout out to my boy DeFran, representing, representing, and giving the what for and doing the Lord's work as soldier.
Yeah,
My
man.
he played soldier. I know you. This is
Go
kind of
ahead.
your
Yeah,
thing,
no, go
but
ahead.
I love DeFran because he
Hmm.
plays soldier like a flanker. King's Row
Yeah.
attack. He hid and waited, ran around the theater, hopped over the walls, rocket jumped his ass, up and over the other side, got up to the second story window behind the point, and started wrecking C9. They didn't do anything about it. They left
Yeah.
him up there, and he
Yeah.
cleaned up and did shots. And then they like fire some stuff at him, and he'd run away and hide. But nobody came
Hmm.
up to check if he was still there, so he'd just
Yeah.
poke his head back out and keep firing. And he just shout out to them for winning the
Hmm.
tournament first and foremost.
Hmm.
But then walking away with that hella great play by DeFran. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, it's interesting because the unfortunate now. This is an overall statement, but um, what's his face? Soldier is just not very good on attack.
Hmm.
Mainly because his survivability is good because he has that health back and he can run away. So that's not the point. But the fact that he can't really get to a position that gives him an advantage, whereas on defense he can set up on the high ground because he'll be waiting for the other team. So he's more of a, even though it's contradictory to what Blizzard put in the game, he's more of a defensive character. Now, when you have I would say DeFran's easily one of the best soldiers in the world, if not the best, one of the best.
Hmm.
Um, just his ability to melt targets and his game sense, his positioning. His positioning is far beyond a lot of people's abilities, I think. So I think that's partially why we've seen Envious just kind of go off recently. I mean, sorry, Selfless.
Hmm.
We'll talk about Envious in a second. But the thing is that's it's a really risky play, and that tells me that Selfless is really, really confident in him. And when
Yes.
you're playing for a team and you're playing for all kinds of money, you really, really, really have to trust each other. You have to trust your tank to initiate when it's right and to when to hold the barrier. You have to trust your supports to keep you alive as well as to take out targets in terms of like Anna's nade and her sleep dart and all these kind of things. So I really think that we're kind of seeing it's the unfortunate truth with pro esports teams that sometimes it just comes down to we're going to pick the best players or try to get the best players, throw them in a team, make them work together. And that's worked out in the past. You can kind of see it in the League of Legends area, even though it's a little bit different. We've
Hmm.
seen it here in the Overwatch area in which people really try to just play the best players and see if that works. But from what that's told me and the way Selfless plays, because they play a little bit differently than most teams, um, that tells me that they really trust each other and they really trust DeFran not to screw up. And so I think that's going to be a big factor when it comes to like the Overwatch League that's coming out soon. I think you're going to see teams really have to trust each other and work well together because you can't just say, okay, we have an amazing soldier, let's just let him go off. It's like, no, we need to make sure he's doing the right thing. Okay, we trust him, let him flank. Um, it's a mentality thing. I think that's what selfless goes into matches, just thinking that we're going to beat you no matter what. We will keep you in your spawn, because they've been known to just like
Oh
hold
yeah,
people in their spawn,
they love doing that, and they did that multiple times against C9.
like that's so risky. I mean, think about it. That's so risky. That just tells me that A, they're confident, and B, they know their team well enough to be able to do that. They know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, they know how they can play. Like, I think that's some next level stuff that other teams are gonna have to bring. And you start to see it. Like, there's a bunch of other teams that are like that. I really think I don't know much about the Korean scene, but we
Yeah.
know that they're really mechanically skilled and they're really experienced, right? But I don't know. I don't really see that type of mentality them. I don't know. I don't watch them that often. I mainly focus on North American and like international teams. But so yeah, so that was a big deal seeing Selfless, and they beat C9 pretty, like, not handedly, but they did well.
They gave him the what
So
for.
yeah. Yeah, so what else you got to say about Selfless?
I don't have much to say about Selfless. What you were mentioning and talking about with um the when you just where the money's at, and you just find the six best players in the game,
Yeah.
and then put them on a team. I kind of see this as a problem for the World Cup,
Oh, yeah.
because
I mean,
that's why there's these councils now. I think is so
yeah,
that you don't just pick number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and say, "Okay, you're the team. Here we go."
yeah.
So
Um, the World Cup's interesting because, like, I used to play soccer, so I watched the World Cup for soccer all the time. And the thing you notice is that, for example, Portugal, Cristiano Ronaldo, he's really great. They have probably the best player in the world, but they don't have a team around them. Like, the rest of the Portuguese team isn't very good. And the way
mhm.
soccer signed up, that you can't really rely on one player. However, Portugal just kept winning and winning and winning. Why? Because they worked as a team. So I think you're right there that you can't just pick the top six players and rely on the best DPS um, in your area in the U.S. or in Canada or in Korea to just go off and let them do their thing. Like, you actually have to work as a team. So I think you're onto something. I think you might be right in that regard. So I think it's going to be an interesting World Cup, honestly.
It will, because this will be the first time around when it's not like that. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. To be honest, I'm actually really excited for it. Go USA, go! But in reality, but anyways, so yeah, so I think I think that mentality is going to be a key factor in that tournament as well as other tournaments that we're seeing. Um, Now, I want to talk about C9 a little bit because this kind of goes along with it. C9 brought in a new tank, Kaiser. They brought in somebody else. Now, Kaiser is a really good tank. He can play both Reinhardt and Winston. He's a main tank player. He's really good. However, they still lost to Selfless after they brought in like two really, really good characters. They brought in somebody else. I can't remember. But it
no.
was Kaiser and I think a support main. I think. Um,
Uh,
do you know?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head here.
I can't remember. Now, the thing about C9 is that everybody knows them from League of Legends, and they are really good, and they are a well-to-do organization. So you would expect them to be able to put together a good team and really compete. Now we've seen them do really good things, and they made it all the way to the
Oh,
grand
they brought
finals.
they brought they brought first of all, they brought in you said Kaiser, but
Kaiser,
they also brought in Adam.
Adam,
Adam was
what did he play?
he's a support character, support player. They
Yeah,
pulled him because they have Surefour on DPS, one of the best DPS
yeah,
players in the
he's
game.
great.
But Adam, I don't even think was pro.
Oh, really?
Hmm. Don't think so. I think they just picked him up not too
Okay,
long ago.
okay. Um, so yeah, so thing about C9 is that they have the connections and they have
The money.
the the money and the name recognition to really attract the good players. But I think like we said earlier, that mentality is what really kind of cost C9 because I think once again they said, okay, let's bring in these really good players and let's let them play together. I just don't see that really. I wonder if they can keep going with that. Now they did 3-1 Misfits in the
Yes.
some tournament that's going on right now. And they play for the way the tournament, it's like pool play. It's not the actual tournament yet. The way they do it is they play 4 maps, and then at the end of that, like round robin type thing, the people who won the most maps get the highest seed, and those who didn't win that many maps get the lower seed. So it wasn't like a best of 5 scenario, but it was 4 maps, and they beat Misfits 3-1. So I think Misfits isn't like isn't the best team, but they're a pretty good challenge. So that's some good news from C9. I think, but yeah, I think along those lines of mentality over. It's not the most important thing. Like obviously you need mechanical skill, but mechanical skill might be the top, and then right below it is kind of mentality / teamwork. So, now going off of that in a different direction, I would like to talk about BK Stars and the ass whooping that Envious delivered to them. I mean, damn. Like
explain, because not a lot of people know who BK Stars are.
So BK Stars is a South Korean team, and I think they have a League of Legends team as well that like did really. I think they won like the International Cup or something like that. I think so. I could be wrong. But they're kind of known for, much like most South Korean teams, they're known for trying different things and kind of being not goofballs, but in a way. And like I think it was Bunny that called out Envy, because Bunny is a DPS player for BK Stars.
Yes.
I think he called out Envious and said Envious wasn't very good. And they're like they were gonna beat them pretty easily. And then Envious, I think I can't. You watch Envious play, man, and it's like sometimes it's like what the hell are they doing? Like,
yeah, they're not always firing off on all cylinders.
Yeah, like, and they are really good. What is it? Is it Crez? No, Coco is their tank. Coco is a really good tank player, but it's like their DPS is just because Taimu is really good, we know, but sometimes he's inconsistent. And then what is it? The other guy, Chris something, that's like their DPS / flex player. He's just kind of inconsistent from what we've seen, but I don't know what it was, man. But this they played as best of 5. The first map, struggling to remember the first map. I want to say Eichenwald, but I don't think that's right. Second map was Nepal, I think. Oh no, the first map I can't remember what it was, but they tied, so they went into a best of 3 tiebreaker on Lijiang Tower, which Envious pretty much steamrolled BK Stars, which was interesting because it was like each round, each team tried something different. So the first round they ran like a 2-2-2 like pseudo dive. I think they brought in a soldier or a McCree. No, I can't remember. Like each team did that, and then they went to like both ended up going to a triple tank on the second round, and then they pushed it to the third round. And I think Envious tried a full dive, and BK Stars tried this like scrappy 2-2-2 with Orion, and they ended up losing. Because in general the dive comp is going to beat a Rhine deathball type comp. So that was interesting. That's Envious won that first point, and then I think it was either Dorado or it was a payload map, and it felt like Envious just did not stop going. Like they just kept on the payload and they just did not stop. Like there wasn't a point in which BK Stars was able to stop them. And I mean, you have Taimu going off, you have Coco going off. He was playing Winston, I think, for the first 2 points, and then he switched to Orion to get through that last corridor. And you just see them playing really well. Now, the map that stood out to me was their third map. They played Hanamura, and like you probably know, I do not like 2CP maps.
Yes.
They are very frustrating, especially Hanamura. Now, they ended up going into extra rounds, but the first set of rounds, the first attack and the first defense from each team, they both came in with a dive, and neither team was able to defend it that well. And then when they go on to the second point, Envious was able to defend it for a little bit longer and force BK Stars to use up a little bit more time. So So the first rounds, the first like set of attack and defense were it wasn't a steamroll by either team. But then you get into the extra rounds, kind of like the overtime version, and Envious they ran Sombra on attack. Taimu played Sombra on attack. Now, we've seen Sombra on defense quite a few times for a 2CP map, and that's really good. Mainly because you can kind of zone, you can create a zone with like no, like where no health pack is available for the team, and like that's a point in which your team can help build your ult. So she's really good on that kind of like we're gonna fight on this set point, but taking her on offense is extremely risky. And honestly, the reason, what was it? When Envious was on defense, they took like a Torb, and they just played like really. They played out of their mind. People just were going off, and they ended up holding first point. So now it was up to them to just take the point, and they ran that Sombra on offense. And I honestly think that the reason it worked so well because I think Taimu came out on the Widow. I mean, he was playing everything. Like he played Widow and I think he played Hanzo for like 1 point, and like he played Sombra, he played McCree, he played everything. He was just trying to find what worked against them, and he played. It was so interesting because he came out as Widow not to. I mean, he tried to get a pick, but mainly just to kind of scout and see what they were running. And it was so weird what BK did, and I honestly think they lost it. BK ran a triple tank. They had, I think it was Zarya, D.Va, Rein, with, I think, either a Soldier or a Genji, I can't remember, and then like Anna and, I don't know if it was Mercy or Lucio, one of the two. And what they did is, it was point 1 Hanamura, and you know where, when you're defending that main point, like that main opening on the point that looks out onto the main courtyard, you know the stairs off to the right?
Yeah.
They essentially, they balled up on those stairs and just like said, okay, we're gonna, because you only have to have one person on the point, so they're gonna essentially say, we're just gonna delay as much as we can and just be protective, right? And the problem with that is just,
It's still technically a 5v6.
yeah, like I don't know what they were thinking because, what's his face? Taimu just comes out with the Sombra and just like gets a hack, gets a second hack, builds his ult, gets the EMP. They clean up, and then I think they ended up killing Taimu. He comes back as a Widow and just starts sniping people. Taimu was behind them on that little house next to him, literally behind him, and nobody looks at him. Nobody tries to even think about getting him. For the first like half of the fight, he's Sombra. He gets his EMP really quickly. He deletes like everybody's ult, everybody's abilities with his EMP, and then next thing you know, he goes to Widow and he's just sniping people. I'm like, you're BK Stars. You're looking at your Korean team. You're good. You're looking at arguably one of the best DPS characters, one of the best like hit scans in the game, and you're saying we're gonna let him have free reign as Sombra? Like not to even get on top of their stupid choice for a team comp. Like we've seen some interesting choices, right? And I don't understand what their mentality was there. I mean, you can even if you watch the VOD, the announcers are like, "What's going on?" Like nobody's even looking at Taimu. Like you can't let one of the best hit scans in the world go to town on you like that. I mean, he didn't even have that many elims. It was just farming his ult and then getting like 2 picks as Widow and his game over. Like it just blows my mind. I don't know. So I ranted a little bit. What do you think?
I think you covered literally everything with it.
Sorry, I was just that blew. When I go to the gym is when I watch all my tournament VODs and stuff, and I'm sitting there, look with my mouth just on the floor, like, what is BK Stars thinking? Because they're heralded as like the team that tries interesting comps, and they just go to this, unfortunate sort of death bally triple tank scenario, and it's just like, wow, this is the best that they can offer right now, like. It's frustrating,
Yeah, I mean, they were just off, and Envious were on.
Apparently, just real quick. Apparently, one of BK Star's DPS just had the flu or something, so he wasn't really all there. But still.
No, you're still a pro. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pro scene is crazy, man. All these little different tournaments and whatnot. And I think right now C9 is playing Misfits in a tournament. Like, I'm not sure. Like, there's even another tournament going on right now. See, the pros go from tournament to tournament to tournament. I
Yeah,
bet half of them haven't even done their placements yet.
probably not. No, I know there's. I was watching Taimu's. He streams a little bit. He only does really like he'll just go over like tournament VODs, and he was talking about how it's hard to do placements when you're doing that. But he also thinks that by playing in competitive teams can actually like not even like even just like solo queuing, just by doing that you're gonna see different play styles and that'll keep them fresh. Like that
Hmm.
was his idea, and he also went over how don't be afraid to try new comps is what he said, because he said that Envious wanted to run this. I think they might have been on single support with the Sombra. I think I'm not completely sure on attack. I think don't quote me, but he said that the reason why he thinks this comp is really good is because people are underestimating Sombra, and especially when you have somebody that such a great hit scan player like he is, you can get that ult off really quickly. So he thinks you're going to start seeing a lot different, like weirder style comps rather than like a straight 2-2-2. So that's on the pro scene. He didn't really talk much about like what you're going to see at Masters or top 500, but on the pro scene, he thinks that teams are going to start experimenting a little bit more. At least he said that that's why he thinks they steamrolled them was because they tried something new. So I think that once again comes back down to the mentality of trust your teammates. Like you have to put a lot of faith in Taimu as a DPS character to play a Sombra, to play the McCree or the Widow in order to try these new these new comps. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is that Carpe is a DPS player for BK Stars, and for some reason, he got mad because Taimu headshotted him a couple times on an earlier map, and they were getting almost no push into Envious defense. So he went on to the Widow to try to get a quick pick,
Hmm.
and like they had just like a tracer just on him immediately. Like they were ready for it, and he would not switch. Like he was determined to stay on the Widow, and they ended up losing. I think it was the extra rounds, and they couldn't take the point, and he would not switch. And you even hear the casters. Casters like, why is he still on the Widow? He needs to be on a tracer. He needs to be on a Genji. He needs to be on something else. He's not getting any value. They're playing too well. The thing with Hanamura is that you have that wide open space, but the way Envious was playing was they were playing off to the side, and they were playing. They had a Torbjorn, but they were keeping him off to the side and just making sure that if anybody ran out to the courtyard, it gets pelted. Like, I don't know. Like, BK Stars just seemed so off that day. It was really weird.
They just had a bad game, and then Envious,
Yeah.
with their anger and their team play, just came in and smacked them around the maps.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, Envious is like they all. I think they all live in the same house, so they see
they
each other
do.
all the time, and they really trust each other. So I think, like we've said before, I think that's the key. I think to esports is being a team, not just being the six best players. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's it for the pro scene, I guess.
I think that's it for this podcast this week. Do you have any last things you want to add before we close
No,
out?
that's good. Everyone, I hope your placements go well, and I hope you actually get ranked where you should be.
So, thank you guys for watching. All our social media links will be down below. Have a good night and good luck over the weekend. See you later.
Bye.